What's up, Amazon sellers? Today I'm here with none other than Natalie Cromie in regards to learning about diversification in your e-com business, and I'm in her warehouse. So if you want to learn about this and how it can help you scale and obviously risk diversify, and stay tuned, we're going to learn all from her experience and some top tips from you about what you can do going forward. Stay tuned. Okay, so today I'm here with Natalie Cromie, and again, we are talking about risk diversification, and or should we say diversification within your e-com business. It's something that I'm certainly interested in, and I'm super grateful to be here in, should we say, the warehouse, and obviously seeing what's going on, the action live in person. Natalie, thank you so much for obviously having me, and obviously letting me come to the warehouse and seeing the operation. If anyone doesn't know who you are, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and what you've done?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, firstly, thank you for coming down to see us. I mean, I know actually in terms of when you're in the UK, we're not actually too far apart. You know, we're a proper South Coast kind of people. But yeah, coming to visit Bournemouth on the hottest day of the year. So yeah, literally well done for, you know, beating the tourist trap and doing that. Well, as you've already said, my name's Natalie. I've been self-employed entrepreneur 15 years, you know, quite a long time now with, you know, myself and my husband have been running businesses, doing different things, and probably about, I'd say 6 or 7 years now, we found ourselves in the Amazon space, and it kind of rocked our world. So ever since then, we have focused fully on income streams that revolve around the Amazon space, the e-commerce space. We've done multiple different things, including founding software. We founded prep centers during that period of time. We've helped other Amazon sellers as well as selling ourselves. We've introduced new concepts of selling on Amazon. And, you know, we also run and deal with some social communities as well. So, you know, part of Facebook groups and, you know, supporting people in the Amazon community as well. And you might see me occasionally pop up on YouTube every now and again. Absolutely. Something like that.
I love it. And my God, 15 years experience, of which 6 to 7 has been in the Amazon game. And you said you might see yourself popping up. My God, like, I've seen you so much. And obviously when I first started, and that was like 5 years ago, obviously a big inspiration for myself and watching your journey. So thank you so much for everything you've done. And, you know, if anyone is watching now, you know, I'm sure there's a lot of thanks for obviously all the value you've brought, you know, kind of the news, the community, and also what you've done. So thank you so much for that. And I know you love it. Like, you're so much part of it.
Well,
So
not the praise. No, it's amazing. And do you know what the thing is? You know, we dip into the world of training. We help people with learning how to, and probably not learning how to sell on Amazon, but learning how to scale, doing a specific type of selling on Amazon. And genuinely, when, you know, I used to hear about it years ago where people say, oh, we're in it for the, you know, helping people. We love this and things like that. And I used to think, oh, what cheeser. But do you know what? There's not a week that goes by that genuinely you do get a message from someone to say, look, you know, someone you might not have spoken to for months or heard from for months, and say, look, I bought a new car because of this, or I've done this because of this. I saved up and I wanted to buy a house, and this Amazon business that you were some small part of has contributed to that. And honestly, there is nothing that makes your day more than that. And so, yeah, it's amazing. It's phenomenal to be part of that. Something I didn't envisage when I first started selling on Amazon. I didn't even know that that was going to be a thing. And I remember I asked you this question when we were talking before. I was like, you know, did you think the first time that you sold something on Amazon that you would end up in the position that you are with all the diversification within that business? And you just don't think that when you start out. You think, wow, I really hope that Thomas the Tank Engine train sells. That's what you start out with. And then it just grows into something else because either you spot opportunity or you see someone doing something, you think, oh, okay, maybe I can add a different perspective to that. Because if there's one thing I always tell anyone that I have any type of, you know, contact with from a training point of view or anything like that, is not one person has it right 100% of the time. Listen and expose yourself to as many credible people as you can. You know, learn from as many different sources, because I don't believe anyone has got it right. You know, I don't know if you agree, but I think that's just the way I think. I'd never want to be someone's guru.
No, I think even if someone is right today, the market is always changing, so it doesn't mean they're right tomorrow.
Exactly.
And that's the thing, like we're always learning. Amazon isn't what it was 5 years ago, and it isn't today what it will be in 5 years' time.
Absolutely not.
So that's the interesting thing. So you mentioned there, and wow, there's a lot. So I think you mentioned there about diversification, and obviously hence the reason we're having this video today, and why I'm coming to meet you. And the reason why I'm having this conversation with you is because obviously I followed your journey over the 5 years that I've been doing Amazon, and you do a lot. You talked about the communities, you talked about teaching people, you talked about yourself and your businesses, and right now we're in the warehouse, and I know you have a prep center as well, so there's a lot of different kind of avenues that you're doing business in. I think my question is coming into diversification I think the real question is, like, you've obviously have diversified, I've done it as well, but I think the real question, if anyone is watching this video today, why should they diversify? Why should we even care? Surely just doing one thing really well, that should be the answer.
Well, you kind of answered your own question a couple of minutes ago when you said about Amazon being what it is today and what it was 5 years ago and what it will be 5 years from now. That is so true. Nothing grows at the speed of, or nothing changes, sorry, that's the wrong word. Nothing changes at the speed of what Amazon does. And therefore you have to be able to keep up with that. And sometimes that doesn't mean just doing the same thing all the time. It may well be that your diversification or someone else's diversification might be the same business model, but it's more a level of evolving, and you have to change and adapt to how that is. But then when you go through that process, then you might discover that it might lead you to a different area. And if you are the type of person that has that opportunist mind, and when you think of the word opportunist, sometimes it sounds a bit scammy, doesn't it? But it's like I suppose the better word would be opportunity mind. Yeah. If you are that type of person that can spot opportunity and look at it and say, okay, this is where this particular market could go, then if you can be at the forefront of that, if you can be the person that's, starting that or at the early stages of it, then you can get yourself ahead pretty quickly. And that's things that move really quickly. Like Amazon nothing moves as quickly as Amazon, maybe apart from like crypto and stuff like that. But that's a whole nother conversation I don't even want to go into. But it's continuously changing, and it is a customer driven business, no matter what. Even if you're not selling physical products, it's more than likely you have to serve a customer at some point, and that changes depending on the environment. So we're coming into quite a testing time at the moment. The next 6 months is going to be massively challenging for a lot of people personally, financially, in their own businesses, lots of different levels. So you have to be able to diversify to kind of navigate yourself around that. What it might be with costs going up, what you're doing at the moment may not necessarily cut that. And it could send you into a bit of a negative, trend. Whereas if you can look at the opportunities that you've already got, you might be able to spot something that it doesn't necessarily mean starting a whole brand new business, but with the opportunities that are here in front of us, and especially with Amazon, we spoke about it earlier, could you take what you're already doing, could you look at that and then duplicate it and do it in a different marketplace? Either a different marketplace or a different platform. Yeah. Global selling's become way more accessible now than it has ever done. Could you take what you're already doing, duplicate it somewhere else, and then develop another income stream? Well, if you have the type of business that you can do it, why aren't you doing that? Where there's so much opportunity, you don't, and historically, I suppose people wouldn't do that because they were thinking, oh my God, it's going to be so much more work. There's going to be so much more this. Well, actually, if your business is at a point where it's doing well, you've probably put some good systems and processes in place. You've probably outsourced it. There's probably elements that you can just transfer over, and providing you have a little bit of capital to start again, then why wouldn't you do that? Essentially, because it's building additional income streams and not putting all of your eggs in one basket, even though it might necessarily be on Amazon. But we all know in particular that if one area declines, it's good to be able to have another area to cover it. You don't sweat as much over something that's declining. You just kind of naturally let it happen. That's the way I kind of see it. So people lose sleep over, if I always say Amazon, you're only as good as your last day, essentially on Amazon. And how many times in the groups do you see people say, oh, I've had a terrible day, the world's coming to an end, I'm doing this. Well, if you have two marketplaces and one's high and the other one's low, you're going to concentrate probably on the high. I think that's human nature, essentially. So and then it won't send you into a negative kind of spiral as well, because it will keep you, more balanced. That's the way I see it.
Interesting. Oh my God, so much in there, and thank you.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. And I think you talk a lot about a lot of different things, and I think I asked the question like, why do people care? Why should they think about diversification? And I think there's probably a better question, or a question to ask is like, what does diversification really mean? And you talked about it whereby taking maybe an existing business, doing it in another marketplace, maybe taking an existing business, doing it on a different platform.
Yeah.
And even there's diversification within a business itself, where you're looking at like, maybe my model is, I don't know, buy fast moving consumer goods quick and get them sold really fast. Or another model could be buy Lego, hold it until it goes out of stock and then sell it, or out of commission, they don't make it anymore, and then sell it there at like a 3x multiple. Different kind of strategies with it. And I think also as well, you talked about it whereby, and I like that last point, and I'm so with you, there are days where one of my businesses is like, the worst day ever, end of the world is nigh, and then the other business is like, wow, we're hitting new records, and you're like, it's okay. It's like you're a bit more balanced. Rather than having your your kind of like hopes, dreams and aspirations all tied to one metric and one business. You can stay a bit more balanced.
Absolutely. And you can do that across a number of different fields. I mean, when you really break it down, especially, with selling on Amazon in particular, even I've gone a little bit kind of, wider there. What you can do by diversifying, if you are in Amazon arbitrage, then you can diversify into wholesale. Then you can diversify into unique bundles. Then you could diversify into private label. Then you could diversify into the EU. But you don't even need to go to you can go to Germany, you can go to France, if they ever sort out the lucid packaging, of course, which I'm hoping by the time this video goes live that it'll be a thing of the past. We don't have to worry about that anymore. You can put all of these different models. You can sell into the US, you can sell into South America. Canada is a market that we sell private label in, and it's a market that not a lot of people kind of talk about or think about, and it's a nice little market. It's not the same as the US massively, that's a whole different beast. But looking at those different opportunities within one business model, and I know some people will just look at it, right, selling on Amazon, that's just the one. But if you think how many layers there are that you could potentially diversify into different areas, if everybody's price tanking on arbitrage, well, it doesn't really matter, because do you know what? I've got some fantastic wholesale contacts that I've made that are going to give me some exclusive deals and exclusive releases. So I don't need to worry about the arbitrage stock for a while. Okay, it's Q4. Brilliant. I'm going to get myself down Tesco's and I'm going to clear the shelves from retail arbitrage, because I know that anything that I pick up is going to sell 6 times as fast during this period of time. There's so much diversification possible during this particular business model. And that's what I said, that's without even thinking about the other selling platforms, eBay, Etsy, social media, all the opportunity. It's just phenomenal when you think about it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's crazy. And you made me think about my kind of business. There are days where, even months whereby one business, should we say even just on one business, it might be like 1 month, say Q4, you're like, wow, it's amazing. I love selling on Amazon. And there might be other months whereby price competition, and I'm like, is this the end of Amazon? Do I give up? And you're like, actually, we look at it in too much of a small, should we say, window, with a microscope, and that one day is a bad day. And really it's about the whole year. And when you've got multiple, should we say, different business models or different diversified, that's allowed you to, should we say, ride those storms. I don't need to take so much money from this business today. I can take from the other one because that one's doing well, this one's not. So very interesting. So you talked about earlier 15 years e-com experience, 6 to 7 in Amazon. And we're talking now about diversification. So I'd love to hear about your experience. What have you done? Talk me through the history, the journey of yourself, and tell me about the diversification in that. I'd love to know.
How long is the video?
I'm sure we can cut down a few bits and speed it up.
If you have ever watched one of my training episodes or one of my Never Mind the Buy books or something like that, you know that they go on for quite a while. Right, okay, I'll try and condense it down as much as possible. We started selling on eBay like most people did back in the good old days in the 90s. Started on eBay. Had jobs while we were doing it. I worked in recruitment. Matt was always in catering. My husband, who's my business partner, also. But both of us at quite a young age, we were sort of like, we don't want to work. We don't want to work for the man. You know, we can see ourselves as business owners, but it's really hard because you say to people, what do you want to do? And you're like, I want to run a business. And they're like, doing what? I'm like, well, I don't know. You know, I don't know, because essentially I'm not a skilled, trained person. You know, if somebody trains as a plumber, then it's likely they're going to have a plumbing business or something like that. Whereas, you know, I didn't go to university. Matt didn't go to university. We didn't go to business school or anything like that. So we had to find our own way. So, you know, through life, Matt ended up starting a restaurant, something I know you have experience with, which we talked about.
Don't do it.
Never start a restaurant. Never start a restaurant. And at the same time, I opened a beauty salon. So I don't know if a lot of people know this about me, actually. So I actually had a beauty salon for 3 years, and that was a challenge. That was a big challenge, running young girls. And I was only in my mid to late 20s at the time anyway, but keeping that, I loved the customer contact. I loved, you know, the side of building that business, you know, introducing new treatments that weren't around at the time, you know, much different to what it is now. There was no aesthetics. It was just come in and get a manicure, you know, that type of thing. The whole beauty industry has massively moved on since then. And so we had that. And then we both sold the businesses. So I sold my beauty salon to someone that worked for me, which was phenomenal. And then I think at that point we both Matt didn't, he stayed out. He was like, once I'm out, I'm out. Whereas at the time I went back into a paid job, and that's when I did recruitment. So I did recruitment for 4 years. I worked for Reed.
Okay.
At the time, don't know if I can say that, but yeah, that's who I worked for. I worked for Reed in accountancy recruitment, which is not the funnest area in recruitment. So I did that, and then we got an opportunity to distribute some really interesting products. We had a family member who had discovered these products, and so it said they're looking for a UK distributor, and we were like, oh, okay, this looks quite interesting. And they were environmental products. And at the time that was really hot. So we started a distribution company, which we have for 5 years, and it was phenomenal. We won awards. You know, we had a 7-figure e-com site that was running because we sold business to business and business to consumers as well. We were supplying lots of cool, you know, retailers. It was like, I always say the distribution company, for anyone that watches The Apprentice, it was like one long episode of The Apprentice, running around the country, trade shows, all of these different types of things. And we had it for 5 years. And 2 things happened. Well, 3 things happened actually with this, because I thought that was a business I would probably stay in forever. I had a baby, which changes everything during that period of time. And it literally broke me when I had to leave my 3-month-old baby at home and go to Birmingham for 7 days for a trade show, because people expect to see you there. And I couldn't take the baby with me. I thought, what is the point of this? I don't want to leave my baby. And I'm quite open and happy to talk about that, because we've always said my kids come first, you know, they're my life. So it was that. And I sort of said to Matt, this isn't going to last forever, because if we have more children, this is only going to get worse. So we started looking at different income streams. And then at the same time, the trend started to die a little bit for the products that we were selling. Started to see Chinese copies coming in. And always our unique element was that they were so different. And then if they were being copied, they weren't so different anymore. That sort of brought in a decline to the business. And then on top of that, which was the final nail in the coffin, was we couldn't get supplied. So we were the distributor, the manufacturer couldn't supply for 3 months.
Wow.
And it essentially killed the business. You know, it took to the point where I had spent 2 years building relationships with people. We were one of the biggest successful sellers of this particular product in the Victoria and Albert Museum gift shop in London. And it took me 2 years of knocking on that door to get in. And within a month, if I couldn't supply, they dropped me like a hot potato. No excuses. Sorry, I don't care if you're the best seller. You're out. We'll find someone else. And at that, it was crushing at that point. And it was like, right, we need to find something else. We need to find something else. So we discovered at the time Matt was looking around, and the business was still going and it was still fine. But I said to Matt, we've got all of our eggs in this. We need to come out of this, or not come out of it, but we need to find something else just in case this happens again. You know, we're too reliant on it. And so that's when Matt found Amazon, and he told me the story of Amazon, and he told me how it works. You went into a shop, you bought a product, and then you resell it at a higher price. And I actually think I laughed at him. And we tried some wholesale products first of all, And so we didn't even do arbitrage to start with. We tried some wholesale products to start with. And I was like, whatever, ridiculous kind of thing. Actually, I think after I'd said, before that, I'd said, you can't sell on Amazon. It's not eBay kind of thing. And of course, 6 years later, proving me wrong. But yeah, we were just blown away because we'd always been eBay sellers. So at the same time, we were selling the products on Amazon and on eBay at the same time. And eBay was being outsold by 8-fold on Amazon.
Wow.
And I was like, okay, maybe there's something here. Should we get ourselves back down Sainsbury's? You know, and then we had the app and we started scanning stuff and we gradually went from there. And then throughout the Amazon journey, you know, just seeing different opportunities. When we started the prep center, there wasn't prep centers around at the time. There was, you know, a couple of big ones. There were some not so reliable ones. There were the throes of some of the big ones that are out nowadays, really respected ones, and they were starting up at the same time. And so we looked at an opportunity and we were like, okay, there could be something here. So we started that, and you know, ever since then, that's what it's always been about: finding and looking for an opportunity, trying to do something a little bit different, and seeing if we can, you know, sort of slide in there.
My God, there's a lot there.
There is. I'm sorry.
No, it's great, honestly, and like, well done, and thank you for that. I think there's so much to deconstruct from that. There's one thing that I really picked up in that. You talked about, you had this distribution company, and I love the idea of that. You're buying from manufacturer, you're selling to your customers. People think of this as like a real business, and like Amazon isn't a real business. It's some kind of like little home thing. But it made me think about the question whereby diversification, and people talk about when you sell on Amazon, you only have one customer, that's Amazon. What do you think about that? And also under the vision of your history of whereby you had the distribution company and you really had not one customer, but one supplier. And that caused a problem. Yeah. How do you feel about that in regards to diversification?
Well, I've learned to treat Amazon, it's a love-hate relationship with Amazon, right? You know, they're kind of what we call a frenemy. You know, they can give you all of this love or they can cast you out. It's as simple as that. And I think as long as you know that, how many people now do we all see that come into the Amazon space that straight away, you know, think, well, Amazon need me as a seller. Well, actually, they don't. You know, big bombshell, they don't. And they don't care about sellers. You know, we are last on their pecking order, essentially. They do need us, but not as much as we need them, essentially. And I think as long as you're aware of that, it's their playground. Try and follow the rules as much as possible. Try and immerse yourself into communities where you can ask questions. There's no such thing as a silly question, where you can just follow the rules and try and kind of stay safe. And I think as long as you do that, you'll always be okay. I don't personally think, I might be in the minority here, I don't think there is ever such a thing as a permanent casting out from Amazon. I know we've heard of this. You know, people say, well, you get permanently banned. Well, has anyone ever seen, you know, that letter, a red letter that says, you know, you are permanently banned? They'll say, we're not going to communicate with you anymore, but you can still try and contact them. And I personally think as long as you're in the mindset of knowing that everything is resolvable on Amazon for the, you know, for the tenacious, you know, it's a bit like, you know, how in some of these groups you'll see, well, I couldn't get an IP claim removed, whereas someone else could. Whilst there is inconsistency in Seller Central, I'm not going to lie about that. But the more that you can do something and the more that you can follow the rules on Amazon, I always think you'll be okay. So I don't think we're slaves to Amazon. They ultimately do want us to have success. They're not sat there plotting our demise as sellers. They want us to sell, but they want us to follow their rules. And we have to understand as sellers, it is their playground. We don't agree with some of their rules, but at the same time, we love the traffic. You know, we love the sales that they bring. So it's a balance, I think. You know, it's not, yes, it is tilted in the favor of Amazon. It always will be. But just think about how much work that you would have to do externally to receive the same level of sales that you do on Amazon if you had to build that traffic yourself.
Yeah, I agree. There's so much.
There's the trade-off.
Agreed. And there is no perfect business, and everything always has risk. Business is inherently risky. I think 80% of all businesses fail after 5 years. Or within 5 years, should we say. And your job is to try and, you know, yes, you can go make a business where you've got lots of suppliers, lots of customers and do that, but it has a lot of a lot of work you've got to do to generate the revenues and a lot of hassle. Whereas Amazon makes it so much easier. And it's, especially as like someone new to business getting started, you've just got to find cheap products. You find cheap products, the rest of it is pretty just administration. Yeah. That's it. It's very simple. You make your money when you buy a great product at a great price, you're going to do well. That's it. And you are right. Like, it is Amazon's playground and they set the rules. And if we're happy to abide by those rules, fine.
Yeah.
And we'll do fine. But if we're not, then obviously they're like, cool, well, the other sellers, we're not interested.
Yeah. It's
they don't have time.
Yeah, it's their playground. If you don't like the rules, go play somewhere else.
Yeah. Completely agree. So we're talking about diversification, and we talked about one Amazon seller account, and you talked about also your history behind. Talk a bit about through like your diversification. So you've done, obviously, you did your distribution company. That wasn't right for you because obviously the family.
I liked
You're doing Amazon now. Like, how have you diversified within Amazon?
Massively. Sometimes, and as of today, we are back in the same spot that we were at the start. And this is crazy how it happens. It goes full circle. So, we started out in arbitrage. We did start out in wholesale actually, but the arbitrage model fitted with us better. What it originally started out as is at the time, my husband was doing some software related stuff. And when we originally did when we discovered Amazon, we decided the wholesale route wasn't for us. So we started doing retail arbitrage, and me having the kids and everything like that was like, okay, maybe this is something cool I can do, whilst having the kids and being a mum and that type of thing. And we did that. And then it grew, it snowballed really quickly, like super quickly. We thought, okay, maybe there's something a little bit more here to that. And we did arbitrage, but we only really did arbitrage in the Wild West days of, Amazon, when anything kind of, really went, to be perfectly honest, was that we only stayed in a really small niche. So we actually only sold in toys, probably for about 2 years solid.
Wow.
And actually a really specific area in toys. I'm quite nichey. I've always been quite a nichey person. So I like the niches within business. I like to identify and find a niche because I think that if you can do that and you can dominate a niche, you can do incredibly well. And that's something that I will always try and look for within a business. And then it became more saturated, more people found out about it. So we expanded it out a little bit more into arbitrage, business grew. Then I had a life-changing event, which I was telling you about earlier, which kind of derailed everything for about a year. And I struggled to get back into it. And I got back into arbitrage at that period of time. And it wasn't the same. It didn't feel the same to me. It felt like a lot of slog. I'll be completely honest, it felt like a lot of slog at that time. And I'm someone that struggles to let go and outsource. Again, a massive lesson that I have learned over the last 5 years. So I wanted to find something that I totally believed in the Amazon model. I mean, I'd seen proof of it, but that model wasn't for me at that time, essentially, anymore. I'm a big believer in that right thing at the right time.
Yep.
So we discovered this new way of selling. Well, I say new way. It was a slight variation, I suppose, of arbitrage, which was taking arbitrage products, branded products, and putting our own unique spin on them. And most people will probably have heard of this now, which is unique bundling. So it's taking well-known products, putting them together and adding something unique to it. And we started doing that and we loved it. We went through the first Q4 with it and I said to Matt, right, I'm never doing arbitrage again. I'm out, I'm done. This is so much better. And that's what we concentrated on for the UK market. And then with that came an opportunity to teach people how to do that. And that's when we founded the Elite Sellers Academy, which predominantly shows people how you can create, which is, even that's evolved, in the last 2 years since we've been doing that as well, because we started out with bundling. And now, because of all the opportunity that Amazon has put into place over the last couple of years through their brand registry and how you can sell some of the things we were talking about earlier, it's like game changing. How you can really build 7-figure brands on Amazon, even with branded products. It's crazy. I can't believe how it's evolved over the last couple of years. So that's where we've been. And then, like I said, ever since you kind of started the trend, I would say, so I'm blaming you for it, but you suckered us back into the arbitrage. I started looking at the US market. I've missed a massive part out, which was about a year ago, we had the opportunity to get involved in private label, which is something I never would have done if we'd had only been in arbitrage. because unique bundling is very similar to private label, apart from the first part of the manufacturing process. And it was a joint venture and someone else was handling that. So we launched a private label product in the US, which has gone phenomenally well. So thank you very much, fell in love with the US market for a multitude of different reasons. So now, because of your influence, we had been looking at the US arbitrage model, and literally, as I said to you, it's like fate. Our first shipment landed last night, and we made our first sale.
Wow.
Last night, because thank you very much. So I'm hoping by the time this video goes live that it's grown into, like another beast in itself. So that's what the hopes are. So that's what I mean, full circle.
Yeah.
Quit arbitrage, back in arbitrage 6 years later.
It's really interesting because you've done wholesale, you've done manufacturer, distributor yourself. You were the distributor.
Yeah.
Then you did arbitrage into Amazon. And then obviously you've done unique bundles, which is a variation. It's kind of like arbitrage and wholesale, depending on how you do supply. But it's a variation, which is great. And then also as well, now you've done private label. And then you're back into arbitrage, but this time you diversify by going into a different marketplace with private label and arbitrage. So it's like, whoa. So you're kind of doing all the different kind of models across, different marketplaces, which is a bit of diversification.
Yeah.
So a lot going on there. Question for you, if anyone is looking at your journey right now, maybe they're doing arbitrage, maybe they're doing unique bundles, and they're like, right, I want to do diversification, what advice would you give them?
I would say look at what you're doing now and what is the closest variation to it. What we said earlier, what is going to be the easiest transition for you? For most people, they take on too much. They take on too much on top of everything else in life and their business. Maybe they're still running. I speak to 7-figure sellers now that still have full-time jobs. It's mental. It's absolutely crazy. And you think, how on earth do you do that? So I would always say, go for the lowest hanging fruit that is connected to yourself. So if you're in arbitrage, maybe look at wholesale. That could be the next thing. If you're in wholesale because you need wholesale contacts really to do unique bundles, then look at unique bundles before you look at private label. Whereas 5 years it used to be arbitrage or private label. Yeah. There was kind of no in between. If you fell into someone's funnel to come into the Amazon world, it was either through arbitrage or generally through one of the big Amazon American PL sellers or something like that. Whereas there's so many different variations. So that's my advice. Look to whatever is the closest and what you can use your existing systems and processes and team for that is transferable to that next model.
And I'm guessing for you, the reason why you're saying that is because it's about time.
Yeah. It
takes time to diversify.
Absolutely.
And if you're diversifying from one thing to something completely different, it's going to take a lot of time. But if you do a small variation, that's a lot easier to achieve and you're going to ramp that up quicker. Obviously now build another diverse stream of income, which you talk about. Question for you is, we talked about Amazon. What are your thoughts on diversifying different platform? eBay, for example.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
eBay is a phenomenal model for a right type of seller. I think you have to be a certain type of seller for eBay, but it depends what it has. Like Amazon, it has multiple uses. So if you are an Amazon reseller, then ultimately you should also be selling on eBay really as a minimum, even just the impact on damaged goods, returns, that type of thing. We've all got that Monica from Friends story where she's got a hidden cupboard with all the stuff packed into it. Whereas that's what happens with most people's warehouses. It's like everyone has a corner of shame where you just chuck your returns and forget about it. So as a minimum, even if you don't want to diversify fully into selling your own products or other people's products on eBay, you should really have that as a bit of a backup. So you're not plugging up warehouse or spare rooms, or something like that. But I think it has a really unique market depending on what you want to sell. I know a lot of very successful eBay sellers. We don't currently sell on eBay. It's the one that we don't currently sell on. But I absolutely think, again, if it was me, I would probably sidestep in Amazon first before moving into eBay. I would probably want to have a different few strategies or selling models running in Amazon before I moved into eBay. But it's perfect for the people that really, don't worry and don't, fear that it's a suspension or something like that, because You know, a lot of people, if you have still got something, it just doesn't feel like the end of the end of the world.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think even from my perspective, obviously I run a couple of businesses. So we run UK and USA and they're separate companies. So really, like, if one gets suspended or Autobot suspended for some reason, we can just transfer the staff over to the other one.
Exactly.
Business kind of continues, maybe not perfectly, but also the staff know what they're doing and it's just a different marketplace. Whereas transferring staff from Amazon to eBay is a very different equation. And I do agree with you. I think if you can diversify within the same platform, kind of like a variation of that, that's a lot easier before you move into another platform, because you've got to learn a whole new set of rules, a whole new operating system.
Yeah.
And that adds more, and it's time, and it's complexity is the enemy of time. So the easier you can make it, the better it is, and the easier to diversify. Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah, definitely. And I think do you know who I learned that from the most? Two people I learned that from the most. People who I know that you met and who are in the Amazon community. So is Seth. Who his story originally of that diversification, and he's very open about this. I'm not throwing anyone under the bus or anything. I've interviewed him myself, so I know he's okay with being spoken about. Well, I hope he is anyway. And he had had a successful business in the UK. Bam, suspended. End of the world kind of thing. But he didn't give up. He diversified into the US and built a bigger and much better business than he had previously. So I'm kind of thinking now, a few years ago, if you'd have asked me the same question, I would have said off Amazon. I would have said off platform. Pick a different platform and diversify on there. Actually now, I think, and this is only right at this moment in time, this advice in a year might be different, because there might be different rules on unified accounts on global markets moving forward. But if it was me now, I would diversify globally first before anything else, before that transition, because it's protection. You've got the staff, like you said, that are absolutely aware of everything, and you can just transfer over from the UK to the US, or the UK to Europe, or Europe to the US, or wherever.
It's crazy. And I think it's such, so I know Seth as well, and I know his journey and what he got up to. And that's a good example of someone who got hit by a brick wall, the problem, and he came bouncing back, and you learn from that, don't you? Like, you talked about your distribution days.
Yeah.
There was a brick wall, you got hit, you got stopped. And you're like, right, next business I'm going into, right, I need to make sure that this is a bit more diversified. And I think for us is, what's really, really funny is a lot of people don't diversify until they hit the brick wall, until they get that problem. And then you learn from it. It's not like, I should do it. I'll do something else. And then I'll come back until like, damn.
It's exactly what it is, but I think it's the severity of what it is. Because I've hit the brick wall a couple of times in that 15 years, probably 3 major times over different platforms and different businesses. But on the 3rd time, I had a baby. We were literally so close to not being, I'm talking going from, thousands of pounds coming in every single day through this business to nothing, absolutely nothing. So within 3 months, worrying about if we can make our next mortgage payment.
Wow.
So the severity of that shook me into action. So don't, learn from my mistakes. Absolutely. And, that diversification, I think, whilst you've got the opportunity, if you've got a team set up in particular, it's going to be harder if you're prepping yourself, you're sourcing yourself, then to go into another marketplace. But get yourself into a position where you can look at what you've got. What's the easiest kind of sidestep? What's the easiest next move? Don't make it complicated for yourself. Don't go for a platform that, in a different market that you've never heard of, or you don't know anyone trusted that you can learn from, or something like that. Take what is the easiest and most natural step in that business to diversify, and try and do it before you get forced to. But I don't know. I mean, I don't know what's right or wrong there. I don't know what's right or wrong, whether or not being forced to do it forces you into action and making it work. They say a lot of people say you have to hit rock bottom before you can go back up again. I don't know, but some people, I'd rather do it on my own terms, if that makes sense.
Final question for you, before we wrap up, is to say, someone thinking now about diversifying, I kind of like to give a measurable. And what I mean by this is there like a revenue number per month, for example, that you'd say, like, at this point, I think you should think about diversifying, and under that, I probably think you shouldn't. Like, if someone right now is doing 1,000 a month, should they diversify?
No. Okay. I think no, they should concentrate. For me, it's not necessarily revenue, because revenue doesn't tell the full story. I think it's more a case about bottom line and how much movement there is within your bottom line to outsource the elements for you to move on to concentrate on building the next one. If you have 5% net margin in your business and you're not outsourced, you need to work on improving that margin in your business before you can move on to something else. You're not able to afford to outsource. It's as simple as that. Yeah. So it has to be more a margin that you're comfortable with for you not to be working in your business. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So I would say for most people within this area, and someone asked me this question the other day actually, and it'd be really interesting to hear your thoughts on it, because I think also the higher terms you go in revenue, generally that net profit figure tends to come down more than anyone, unless you're in private label. I'm talking about in reselling, wholesale arbitrage, that type of thing. Whereas I think if you are fully outsourced in your business and it can run day to day, with you having no more than 10%, input into it, if you are net 10% profit, then I think that's a good time to be able to move on. I don't know if you agree with that.
No, I think it's an interesting one. I think it's a really good point that you talked about. I think for me personally, when you diversify into something else, I talked about it earlier, it was about time. Time is a problem.
Yeah.
So if you're 100% in your business right now, really, I think you want to get to a point probably where you're at least 20 hours a week. If you're working 40, you've got at least half of your week you're free. Ideally 30 hours and that current business is reduced down. While we talk about percentage margins, I would probably say to the point whereby your company is making double your payroll cost in profits. Mm-hmm. Because you're going to take out, let's say for example, I get paid $2,000 a month. My company should be making $4,000 a month. So I'm going to continue to take out the $2,000 a month for me while I now go and work on the next diversification project. Yeah. Because that's going to take up my time. And then also number two, I'm still reinvesting $2,000 a month into the business to continue it growing without me. And by the way, I say without me, I'm still working on it. Let's call it 10%, 10 hours a week, for example. Fine. That's keeping it operating, but I'm not a core, I don't need to work more than that.
Yeah.
So I think that would be kind of the way I would think about it, but I think you're right. Every business is slightly different. And I think we've got two kind of different metrics we looked at there. But at the end of the day, your business needs to make money and you need time.
Yeah, exactly. And I think where someone else might be happy with 8%, someone else is only going to be happy with 20%, so it's about expectation, managing your own expectations and being able to build something new on the time that you had. It may well be that you don't need to get out of the business that you're in. You want to concentrate on building the business that you're in, but you do want an extra income stream. So therefore you're going to look for something that has to be outsourced. So that's why I like the global selling at the moment. We spoke about this. The only reason we went into selling in the US, because it has to be outsourced. There's no choice. I'm not going to hop on a FedEx plane, every 2 days, taking packages over there, packing it up and sending it off. It has to be outsourced. So it doesn't give me any choice, which means ultimately, yes, for a certain period of time within the business, I have to learn it inside out and I have to get to know it. I mean, being outside of Arbitrage for 3 years and learning it again is, there's certain skills I don't think you ever lose, like sourcing and things like that. But things that you can sell, you can't sell. I'm back in the good old days of, you can't sell L'Oreal and things like that. And still, whereas everyone sells L'Oreal now because, the company's changed ownerships or whatever. So it's like learning those things all over again. And those are the things that I want to learn. I don't want to be packing boxes. I don't want to be doing this. So I've outsourced those parts. So therefore that business is going to be outsourced, which means I can concentrate on my UK business a little bit more. You don't need to outsource that one fully. You can have the goal. And the good thing about it as well is if you have that type of business, you have a starting pot that you can start that business. And if you are not reliant on that other income stream, if you are not drawing anything from it, it's going to scale a hell of a lot quicker than something that you are drawing from. Something you're drawing from is not going to grow as quickly.
Yeah, I completely agree. So much there. Honestly, thank you so much. So much about diversification. I like the fact that you talked about your journey, where you've been. We talked about numbers and also which steps to diversify when it happens. I think that's brilliant. Mm-hmm. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you're also a busy lady. You've got so much going on, multiple businesses, diversified. And if anyone wants to get in contact with you, what's the best way?
Probably through Facebook will always be the best way. I mean, well, actually, I'm going to give 2 shout outs here, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So we have a new Facebook group, which is called Ecom Inner Circle. So you can find us there on Facebook. So yeah.
Drop it down below, link down below.
Link down below. And also I am on YouTube, which we are on Never Mind the Buy Box, which is our weekly live on a Tuesday afternoon at 1 o'clock, where we kind of chew the fat and talk about everything about Amazon. Tom pops up every now and again. We have different guests on and things like that. So you can find us on YouTube. Again, hopefully the link will be down at the bottom.
Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And it's been lovely to meet you in person. Obviously, I've watched it over the last 5 years of my journey, and obviously to see it. And also, thank you so much for sharing. So for myself and everyone watching, thank you so much. And obviously, I look forward to coming back, maybe in a year's time, seeing the journey and seeing how you diversified into taking over the world.
Yeah, absolutely. But thank you so much for coming. I know it's a long trek from Mexico. You came all the way especially to see me. No, I'm only joking.
It's the English summertime. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Tom.